guess that means George is ready.
Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. Tonight is the Monday, June 3rd Town Board meeting. Can I get a motion to open up the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Call a question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Do you need a signature back there?
I get it.
Yeah, Sal, stay there. Sal will sign it for you. This way you can leave in like half hour, 45 minutes. Okay? Community announcements. We got the Village of Summer Concert Series. Dory, did you want to touch
Sure.
on those?
So the Village of Monroe is once again doing their summer concert series. The first one will be this Saturday, June 8th, and it is Monroe's Got Talent. This is, I believe, it's the third annual Monroe's Got Talent. It is an absolutely wonderful night to come out and see how many talented kids we have here in Monroe and the surrounding area. And then that will be followed with several other concerts throughout the summer. Concerts start at 7 p.m. They go through to 9 p.m. It's a great night to have dinner on the lawn, patronize your local restaurants, listen to some good music, see your neighbors.
Got to give kudos to Peter Dawson on that. He does a lot of work.
He's done a fantastic job. And I believe I heard that Julia Room may be there this weekend. She was on, was it The Voice or America's Got Talent? One of those two.
One of them.
America's
But
Got Talent.
She did very well.
Oh, no, was it?
Was it The Voice?
Yeah, it was The Voice. Okay. Next up, Councilman Scancarello, Town of Monroe Food Truck Festival.
You
Food Truck
missed- wait.
Festival
Oh, it keeps changing. Never mind.
is Saturday, June 15th, 11 a.m., 7 p.m. 5 local bands, 20 food trucks. We've got 2 or 3 breweries that are going to be there as well. It's always a great event. Come out and support. The Ladies Auxiliary is our beneficiary, so come on out. That's one of the best days out of the year for Monroe, so come on out and support it.
It's a Ladies Auxiliary from the Harriman Engine Company, but they provide support for all 3 firehouses.
I had a question from the constituent asking, are they a 501c3, the Harriman Ladies Engine? Do we know?
I believe they are. Double check.
I'll find out.
They were just curious, based on last town meeting, our discussion regarding pairing up with Museum Village and donating funds to them, how that would work with the Harriman Ladies Engine.
We'll find you out the answer.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Village of Monroe Farmers Market. That takes place every Sunday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's at the Mill Pond Parkway Communal Lot, and it goes from June 2nd, yesterday, through October 27th. Next is the MS Walk, which is going to be held on 6/9 in the Village of Monroe Commuter Lot. They've done that every year. They start pretty early, and it's a fundraiser for multiple sclerosis.
If anyone's interested in volunteering, on the town website, there is the email to contact Jessica Rind. So if anyone needs some volunteer hours for a high school diploma or anything else, you can get that done that way.
Okay. Item 4.1.
Excuse me, I think you missed the library.
She's not here.
No, she just wanted to say that she is coming next week to talk about what the library does, and it's not your grandmother's library. They do a lot of things that are different, and that's why she's coming at the following meeting,
Okay. So she's coming
the 17th.
Yeah.
June 17th.
She just likes us
17th,
to
yeah.
announce her arrival in
Okay.
advance, like
Just so people
ceremonially.
Yeah, just so
We're
people are
excited for
aware.
her to come.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Item 4.1, I'll make a motion to open up the continuation of a public hearing, local law H-V1 of 2022 to amend Chapter 57 zoning concerning the regulations governing tree preservation.
Poole will second.
Call the question?
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, I.
Anybody sign up?
No public comment.
No public comment. Okay, so we're going to continue it till the 17th. So I'll make a motion to continue that public hearing on June 17th at 7 PM or immediately thereafter.
Second for discussion. Are we scheduling a workshop meeting?
Fire, you mean?
Prior? I mean,
Just in general? for
Dory,
this?
myself, and Dennis have a meeting set up.
That's not the workshop meeting that Dennis requested at the prior meeting and that we've brought up at several
Well,
conservation. How about you let me continue my sentence? That's not the workshop meeting. That would engage the building inspector, the planning board chairwoman, and 3 or more members of the board and allow every member who's entitled to work on it at a scheduled time and convenient location where the public can view. And would be, I think, cutting down on the continuations of these time and time again, where we can actually just hash out the details with the involved parties.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
why don't you contact Dennis and set that up?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, call the question?
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, I.
So moved. Item 4.3, I'll make a motion to open the continuation of a public hearing regarding short-term rental application for 13 Ruby Road, SBL number 35-2-2.1.
Second.
Call the question?
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, I.
Okay, so moved.
And Paul Carrico. Just a reminder, you'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening, just state your name when you come up to the mic and where you live, please.
Paul Carrico, 14 Ruby Road, right across the street.
Okay,
And my wife,
Jeanette Carrico.
okay. Thank you for being here.
thank you for having us again.
Sure.
We were here the last time. We appreciate the opportunity to speak. And I just realized I didn't read fully the short-term rental, the February 2002 local law 1 that was passed. Appreciate that because I see it gives the homeowner some opportunities to protect his interests there. So thank you for that very much. We did want to say that, as we had in the past, that they did operate a bed and breakfast in 2022, and we submitted information 2023. And according to the guidelines there, it mentioned that that would disqualify them for 24 months from receiving a short-term rental. And it has been admitted here that they knew that they did that. They were trying to mitigate some challenges with that. I think Jeanette wanted to say a couple things too.
Well, right, yeah, that, as far as that's concerned, that was your legislation 40-3, and, operating a short-term rental without a permit, a valid permit is prohibited and therefore would disqualify or make it ineligible for them to have a short-term rental for a period of 24 months. And I did submit through email the date that we actually saw the listing for that Airbnb was back in July of 2022. So those are, that's our big objection. The biggest objections for the short-term rentals, though, are simple for us. It's a matter of our peaceful right to a peaceful living, our serenity, our peaceful surroundings there. Why we live here in Monroe on the lake is to enjoy our home, the beauty, the nature, and not to have strangers coming and going all different times of day, night, walking about through our private little area, parking in our private area, walking in our private area. We hear the noise despite the fact that there are shrubs, evergreens that my husband lovingly planted to give some privacy. You still hear the neighbors. We know this from experience because we've lived at both residences. There's only 2 of us in this small neighborhood. So we understand the challenges and the differences of living in a big community with 100 homes where maybe one is a short-term rental, and you really would never know because people are rarely seen or heard going in and out. But here it's just us, 2 neighbors who we were hoping could cope coexist in this peaceful setting, enjoying our nature. For us, it's like going on vacation and you have rowdy people there at the pool. Yes, they're not in your same building. No, they're not your next door tenant, but you're just thinking, when are they going to check out so I could really enjoy this resort? Or you're anxious to get back home because of the bothersome parties they're having, or you just don't know what to expect. So that's our big reasons for the objections. There are,
And these photos?
I did send some photos. They outline that, yes, we can see them, they can see us. If I could probably go back in history and see from when we were living at the 13 residents, we could see the 14 residents' doors and neighbors, and our property's a little bit elevated from there, so if we're sitting in our deck, we certainly can look right into their backyard and see their, short-term renters in the backyard, in the front yard, the side yard, whatever it is.
Talk for a second. Describe what all these.
Those are people, so if they have up to 12, so that was when actually, you just don't know. They're going to come and go. This is our Ring doorbell that's shared because it's the shared driveway. So, when we're, out and about, we're wondering, well, are we expecting a package? We might be looking, but it's just constantly different people coming and going throughout the day and night. And so it concerns us with security as well.
And I just might add that we have the Ring doorbell with a gate, so that's what goes off all the time.
That's at the gate at the front.
That's the shared property. You come
Shared-
in on the property. It discourages people from coming down unless you have
Is it the beginning of Ruby Road, or is
it's
it
near
Can I ask
halfway.
near?
Halfway.
who owns the gate and paid for the
It's a
gate?
shared
We,
lot.
we actually purchased and
I
put
do
the
it.
gate up,
Yeah,
and that was before the house was sold.
right.
And so that common and maintenance agreement, easement agreement,
Just bring the microphone closer. Just
oh,
'cause-
sorry.
Yeah.
So the common maintenance agreement that we have for that shared access, it involves the maintenance of that and other things that come up related to the road, the access.
You guys originally paid for the gate, just.
Time is up.
Correct. Yes, the gate,
Any-
the bushes, the driveway. Since we own both houses, we maintained it.
How many homes are on the shared gate?
Just
Two.
two.
So the 13 Ruby and you. So you were the ones that sold it to?
Correct.
Okay.
And the point of the security too is that at the end or beginning, off Sapphire, are the two mailboxes for our homes, 13 and 14. And so people know that that's all there is down that one road. There's also if you are on an Airbnb listing, there's an aerial view that they provide, more of a logistics for the map of the area, so you can get a general idea of where you might want to be close to when you're picking a home. And even though you can't, they don't advertise the address, there it is. There's only two homes on that road. It's not rocket science to figure out our address.
It's very helpful for us to find illegal rentals. I actually used that,
Exactly.
but not so
But
secure.
that brings up the
Yeah.
security issue, because we have had people come down the driveway, go in, turn around, just to look.
What's the time frame on?
Some are current. The ones with just the one truck shown is, and I don't know if I did a snapshot of video. Oh, that I couldn't send, that's right, it was too large. Those are from past.
2023 till the fall, they
Yeah.
were renting. So that would have been before that, that summer of 23, summer of 22.
And one shows a person, even though It's a recent capture of the last time they rented prior to them submitting their application for their permit. A person who was there as a short-term rental walking in our area. So she comes from the, and this isn't the first and only time. We'd have to go back through our ring history that's capturing, and it would, when they come, they rent, they take groups that are walking together, they'll walk about the neighborhood. They just are viewing maybe our home as also renters, so they don't feel that they have to respect our privacy. And nobody's there to monitor it. There's no host on site to address any of that.
This picture
That
here,
was the first time we addressed the issue because they had definitely more than 12. And
how many cars were there that time?
I believe about 5.
there were more than 5, actually.
Okay.
But they weren't all staying
They've had
overnight.
up to like 8, but then, as, we've discussed it with them, and then, because you're allowing visitors during the day, if you're allowing 12 bedrooms,
12 people.
now how many families have 12?
No more than 12 guests at a time.
No, it allows for one
And then-
guest to bring in for the day, and then they leave.
Oh, so it's
they-
no
they
more than
just have no
12
more- there's no
overnights.
parking
Overnight.
for
And
that.
then
Okay.
one
Let
guest
Let me-
per couple.
Let me
Yeah.
just say this, because we're over
We're
our
over
time.
time.
I will say this regarding your comment about the after 7 days, that's only applies if there's a violation when they apply. I don't know if there is a violation with this home. And when we discussed this law, and I remember council speaking directly to it, we discussed the fact that before we instituted the law, Airbnb has regulations. So you might be a premier or platinum host, and by not being able to continue advertising, we would have hurt their business by preventing them from continuing to rent, and it would have put us in a legal situation if they were approved. So, counsel, I don't know if you want to add to that?
No, that's correct. I think that provision, the way it was worded, the idea was to encourage compliance, and we didn't want to discourage compliance. So if somebody had been advertising at the time the law went into effect or advertised improperly, it wouldn't prohibit them. However, there's a notice provision. If they were given a notice and then, went on to expand or continue to advertise beyond that time, then there was the violation and the provision that was talked about earlier concerning the 24 months, potentially being unable to apply. So I'm not sure in this particular case if there was a notice or not.
It's also, they weren't allowed to rent it out, but they were allowed to continue advertising, is how Ben described it.
Allowed to,
They were allowed to advertise, but as you said, they were not allowed to expand out and advertise on further sites, but
Right.
they were not allowed to rent it, like to actually book, to continue booking. Like Mr. Cardone had said, it was sort of for the purpose of the continuation of keeping their
No,
status.
Well, I didn't state that they couldn't continue booking. That wasn't the intent at the time.
Okay, that's what I'm clarifying, because
Please don't put words in.
you had said that it was the continuation of advertisement so that they could maintain their status as a premier host. Advertising is not booking. That's what I'm clarifying. I spoke with the building inspector, and he just,
I don't know, I'm not speaking for the supervisor, I'm
Yeah.
not, you're asking what he said, or?
I'm just asking because I didn't hear the answer to the question. Was the law intended to allow premier hosts to maintain their status to continue advertising? Or were they allowed to continue booking and renting out without a permit?
I believe it, at the time, it had nothing to do with, that was part of the discussion at the time. It wasn't put in anything about premier status or anything else. It was just put in that the advertising couldn't be expanded. Whatever they had at the time they applied, it could not expand. I don't know that it particularly said, all rentals must stop. But obviously, if they rent, and they don't have approval, then they'd be in violation of the code.
So that's,
Thank you.
again, my question is, are they allowed to rent it out or is it purely just they're allowed to advertise?
I don't think they can rent out.
Okay,
If
that's-
they're
so
in
then Ben is
violation, then
accurate.
they cannot
Yeah.
continue to rent in violation of the code.
Okay, thank you.
Can, just one short
Go ahead.
comment? Thank you. So you're at a point where you have to make a decision. They're legally abiding by the law by getting the house inspected. There are the circumstances that have led up to this that you as a council certainly can consider, that they did rent, that they did know the law, and they just, being a good neighbor, and I'll still plow the yard, the lawn, and I'll take care of it, and I'll say hello, but you can make a decision based on enough, I think, to say, no, you're denied the permit. That's what we're just hoping. So, but that's up, of course, we know you.
All right, thank you for being,
So thank you.
Thank you
Your
for the
comments.
pictures.
Call for public comment.
okay.
Applicant?
Repeat that when you get up to the mic.
James Haran from J&G Law, appearing on behalf of the owner of 13 Ruby Road. With respect to the issue of prior rentals, my client indicates the last rental was the July or August of 2023. With respect to the provision in your code, which I apologize I had just had, but it require, in order for the 24-month prohibition to kick in, there had to be a notice of violation served by the building.
That's what I said.
Right.
Yeah.
And my client is not aware of any notice of violation being served in respect to this. With respect to the gate, there's, and I believe we had submitted the documentation regarding the private road. There is an agreement that all of the properties that access it have access over the common road, including the gate. It would extend to the property owners and their invitees or tenants. And with respect to the conditions here, I believe there's 5 conditions that need to be considered, and the applicant meets all 5 of those criteria. We had submitted documentation regarding the parking on the premises. And with respect to the privacy and the screening, obviously it's impossible to screen properties 100%, but under the circumstances here, as was noted at the last meeting, there is very substantial screening here between the properties. It was noted that in comparing this screening to other applications, this was in essence the model of what would be a very, very substantial screening. There are house rules that are now in effect that were not in effect previously. And the code contemplates that if the neighbors complain, the complaint will be investigated, and if in fact there are violations, the permit can be revoked. So, there is a mechanism whereby it can be policed, and that's the whole reason why my client is now, applied to the town board for a rental permit. He wants to comply with the law, and he wants to, again, use rent the premises on some basis when he's not present, when he and his family are not present. So it's to defer some of the costs. Again, he resides in the city and uses it as a second home, but this would defer some of the costs for the property. My client maintains the property immaculately, and he wishes that to continue. It's not in his interest to let any tenants get out of control. Any damage that would be caused to the property, he'd have to absorb that. So it's not in his interest to have unruly renters. And with that, we would ask that the public hearing be closed, and that the board reach a determination as soon as possible. Thank you.
That's all for public comment.
Board have any comments? Okay, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing regarding 13 Ruby Road.
Who will second?
Call the question.
Am I?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Who will aye?
Richardson, aye.
What's the board's flavor? Would you like to review everything?
Yes, please.
I think that we can make a decision, at the next meeting on June 17th. We'll place it on the agenda because with the new information and a couple of things, we'll have a decision. Okay. Next item. Motion to open the continuation of the public hearing for short-term rental application 21 Front Street, SBL 16-3-1. Anybody sign up? No?
Who will second?
Okay. Call the question.
Am I?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Who will aye?
Richardson, aye.
Okay.
Public comment.
No public comment. Okay, so the only question I have regarding this is we still don't have a final map of the addition. You're 21, come on up. We still don't have a final map on the clarification of the additional lands that will become yours.
We have an email from Noreen, our planning board secretary, that answers our questions. We got the proposed lot line changes that was approved conditionally, and then we were told that the conditions were not filed yet. Do you have an update to that?
The conditions were not filed for the lot line change?
Could you speak into the microphone?
And just please state your name for the record.
Oh, Jim Conley at 21 Front Street. I wasn't sure, I'm not sure of where the lot line actually I know it was conditionally approved.
Right.
And then the surveyor, he said he has to do a topography.
Mr. Nugent?
I applied for my current lot line, right? So I don't know how that alters.
Oh, if I remember correctly, some of the walkways and other aspects.
I sent pictures. I took pictures of everything to show that.
Yeah, but I personally, I would prefer to see a survey.
I have the survey right here.
I'm just speaking to Councilwoman Richardson. The letter from the planning board says that the applicant has not submitted to them regarding the conditions set forth in the resolution. So the resolution that the planning board gave you when you got your conditional approval, there must have been some things you still had to do, and that's what we're looking for.
The topography, yeah.
Yeah.
Most likely, that's the surveyor I got to find out. But what I'm saying is that I applied for the STR based on my current situation. So everything else is just really a bonus. I mean, the extra lot.
I wouldn't recommend that.
What's that?
I wouldn't recommend that just based on my preliminary understanding of the law, because your deck and the facilities that the renters will be using, actually, the map that we had, like we were talking about, it split the stairs and everything. I know that you submitted a private survey, but
some pictures of the.
yeah.
And it's.
So the lot line went right through the staircase.
Yeah, the building inspector's version of the survey, he's just not comfortable accepting outside party survey as a policy. So now that you have a conditional approval, I would just recommend following through that. I was going to ask you, does it have to go through the town engineer? Am I remembering that correctly?
Oh, I think it's the planning board engineer that wants the
the planning board
conditions. Right.
Engineer. So are we waiting on them? I just do not have that document.
We don't have anything, yeah.
So they are the next initiator of the process, is he? Is what I'm trying to say.
He has to.
What's that?
You have to complete the conditions that the planning board set. Then the attorney for the planning board and the engineer for the planning board would send a letter saying all the conditions have been met. That's my understanding.
Okay. Now, I guess my question is, I didn't apply for the short STR based on the new lot line, I guess. But you're saying that the old, what I applied for and what I got approved from the building department is not what we want to do, or?
Because I don't think the old, where the lots were, your items were not on your lot. That would kind of preclude us giving, I don't want to speak for the rest of the
Yeah, yeah.
board,
No, no,
but it
understood.
might
But what
preclude
items are we
an
talking-
approval.
but what items
So
are-
you need to have all those conditions that the planning board set finalized.
Okay. But what is on the other, what are we referring to? I'm just,
I don't have the resolution from the planning board, so if it's the topography, if it's...
no, I meant as far as applying for, I applied for an STR based on the existing lot line. And the building department came, inspected everything, and then I'm moving forward with that. That's what I thought. And then this is all actually happened after the fact, the lot line. This new lot line is.
If you want me to read the resolution of approval,
No, I guess I see what you're saying is that in order to get the additional lot line.
In the
I need to-
opinion of the building inspector.
Yes.
Um,
But that's for
yeah.
the additional lot line, but I'm saying what I did was I applied for the old lot line with the building.
I know. So I can't speak for like what his opinion would be right now hearing you, but I can only speak to what the conversation I had with him was that his maps, our maps, the ones that we can swear by, are telling us that we cannot. And I know that you got a private survey done, but I saw the flags and I'm not a specialist,
Those
but
are my neighbor's flags, yeah.
oh, they're your neighbor's flags. But still, it's
Put them up for us.
yeah, it doesn't make sense why a lot line would be through a deck. So I think this is just something that we have to finally clarify, like once and for all. I know that it's very bureaucratic. I apologize, but if you have this sort of already in motion, I guess, what's the board feeling?
Well, I think I need to hear Supervisor Cardone read that resolution, what the conditions are.
I was
If you-
trying, Mary.
If you have it, yeah.
I was trying.
That's okay. Sometimes things take a little longer.
Sometimes you get interrupted, Mary.
Never do it.
Okay, and so. Is subject to final engineering review of the map, and that's basically goes into details about the map. Shall not be signed until receipt of a letter from the planning board engineer. Prior to the signing of the map, the applicant shall submit a properly executed owner's endorsement from Round Hill Realty authorizing the application. Prior to signing the map, suitable monuments shall be placed at lot corners to the satisfaction of planning board engineer. Seems like you've done that. The map shall be revised as follows to the satisfaction of the planning board engineer. Revise the bulk table to include the applicable zoning requirements for the RR1 district and existing and proposed bulk dimensions for each lot, and indicate any legal pre-existing non-conforming conditions. Delineate the boundaries of the RP-O district, RR-1 district, and SR-15 district. Show the topography of Lot 1, Parcel A, and 100 feet onto Lot 2 from the new lot line. Show the stream in this vicinity. Label the existing improvement structures on tax parcel 7-1-40. Remove the reference for proposed easement area for pedestrian access. Then it goes on to say, add map notes as follows. The map reflects a lot line change amongst existing lots. No new lot is being created. No development or disturbance is being approved as part of this lot line change. Tax parcel 70-1-40 is located partially within the Ridgeline Protection Overlay District, which is what RP-O means. Any future construction or disturbance proposed shall require review and approval by the planning board pursuant to Town of Monroe Code 57-21.2. Map must be filed with Orange County Real Property Service and/or Orange County Clerk, and no deed may be recorded until such map is filed. The applicant shall copy the planning board on its letter transmitting deeds to Orange County Clerk for recording, and shall provide the planning board a proof of filing of said deeds. And the new deed description shall be acceptable to the planning board engineer. Then you go on to the general conditions. The approval is conditioned upon applicants submitting all necessary copies of maps to be signed, including Mylars when required, to the Town of Monroe Building Department within 180 days of the date of this approval. The approval is further conditioned upon all approvals that are needed by operation of federal, state, or local laws and regulations, whether or not or noted above in the specific conditions of this resolution, including but not limited to United States Army Corps of Engineers, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, New York State DOT, New York State Department of Health, so on and so forth with other agencies. The approval is further conditioned upon the applicant delivering prior to signing of the plat proof in writing that all fees and expenses, engineering, planning, legal, and otherwise, including inspection fees owed to the town for all land use application are paid. Fully completed entity disclosure statement signed and either sworn or affirmed by the applicant, referenced on file with this board, meaning the planning board. The conditional approval shall expire 180 days after the date of resolution granting such approval unless the requirements have been certified as completed within the time and a plot has been signed, or unless such time is extended by the planning board. A failure to comply with any such condition in a timely manner shall result without further action in elapsing of this approval. So that alone is why we can't act on it.
Okay,
We have to wait for the approvals.
So the current house that I purchased in Monroe, I would not be able to short-term rent it.
I think
Not until you satisfy these conditions.
well,
I
no,
I
that's
understand that, but I'm saying
two different matters.
I applied for the STR on
Yeah.
the home that I purchased.
Mr. Nugent,
So
could
I'm just
you?
a little confused.
Because I think that we're talking about two different matters now, and he keeps going back and asking one matter at a time. He wants to prove that his lot lines are not the lot lines that the building inspector has issues with. He wants to file with that lot line. He has filed with that line. Can you answer to that scenario?
And then I purchased this property after I started.
Right, so what is the lot line is before the planning board? The lot line change?
Just after the deck. It's,
Includes
we
the
have
deck
that
and-
in our executive.
Yeah, it's in here, but it includes
Sorry,
only a
can I ask
portion of the deck, I think a portion of the walkway, and
It-
I
Some
don't,
stairs.
yeah, stairs,
The lot line on the map goes 3 feet into a set of stairs. So in practical realities' sake, that's not realistic. I don't think they would have allowed him to build the deck unless there was some kind of permitting issue. And then he had an independent survey, which we have photos of, with flags, or the neighbor, with flags that show clearance, grass, land between the edge of the staircase and his property line.
Know which condition is not satisfied in that approval?
That what we thought was the condition not satisfied, that the tenants would be using property not associated with the main house. Is that even a concern?
Shouldn't be, but it also mentioned compliance or bringing in nonconformance into
Yeah.
compliance. Is there nonconformance on the lot that we're talking about? Any
He hasn't been notified by our building inspector of any violation that his deck is off his property in reality, but that's, he's brought this to our attention now technically, so what's our obligation? Do we have one, or is his independent survey, you see, how do we proceed in remedying?
So Brian, here's the question. Do we as a board approve this and then, or disapprove it, but if we do approve it, are there any ramifications if that lot line is not changed or that lot is not added to this lot?
I think there is, regardless of whether you got a violation, if there's nonconformance, you can't approve an STR if you have nonconforming lot or structure on the property. And until we know that, I don't know that, unless I'm going to go look at, we shouldn't have a question on where the lot line is, so.
He did submit, in advance, he submitted an independent survey with flags that clear and, in their opinion, proves that it is in compliance. But I spoke with Ben and,
I was going to say, and the building inspectors,
Yeah.
they've all been to my property.
yeah.
And does any of the bulk or these houses, even though the line might be moved off the deck, is it's still an issue, anything that requires a variance, where the deck is in relation to the lot line or anything, even if it's now within.
Oh, like there's not enough clearance
Not
between
enough
the edge.
bulk or, setback.
That's a question for Ben, but Ben's, our whole discussion was based on that this addition would be successful and part of the application. Our entire conversation premised on the application, including the new lot.
Yeah, so I don't think if we're in agreement or satisfied with where the lot line is, that's issue number one. But I'd have to ask Ben, because I don't know if, assuming the lot line's moved where it is, everything is in compliance and conforming.
He just said he does not typically accept external surveys like that, or that kind of, just a photo of flags. He can't accept that as evidence as well, so.
Except the
No.
stamp certified?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Stamped? Oh, I don't know. No. That's just what we received.
So do you have a survey by a licensed surveyor stamped?
Yep.
Has that been submitted?
Well, there's a survey you guys have, it's in the.
It's not stamped with the engineer's stamp on it, though.
Is that the one where the
James A.
line is
Dillon-
through the
James A.
stairs?
Dillon, professional land surveyor.
Is that the line where it's through the deck? I think that is the one that.
This is not stamped, this is a draft for review.
Yeah, that's the one I saw. It says draft for review on it.
And I'm gonna say this, Brian. I don't know how the lot could be conforming when, and I'm just doing this by observation, when the lot line looks like it's maybe a foot off the side of the house. There's minimum setbacks. I think it's 35 feet, 15 at a minimum
So-
on one side.
I thought you were through the building inspector, and that's why he sent you here, and that there were like non-conforming and unpermitted structures and all those things, and
On
you.
the other property,
Oh, okay.
not mine.
Okay.
Not the property that I'm STR.
Okay.
And that, yeah, so it's all on the other property.
Okay.
So the other property has nothing to do with the STR that I'm working on right now. However, that's already been remedied with this conditional approval. All the other.
Yes, if you filed that, then the preliminary opinion is that it would improve your
I'm saying
circumstances.
The non-conforming items are all on the other property. They're not on my property.
Okay, well,
Then that's not on my property right now.
right, but what Supervisor Cardone has just mentioned and pointed out, I'm now realizing, and as well as our attorney, that there has to be setbacks between your deck and the house and the edge of your property. So now we have to ensure that that is compliant. And I'm not a building inspector, so.
Yeah, so here's the problem in a nutshell. The planning board resolution says that the survey has to indicate any non-conforming or, non-complying bulk, which is okay, that's the condition. The problem is for the short-term rental, it says that the structure and lot basically have to be conforming, and it says the lot and the structure are not considered existing non-conforming uses or buildings. So if there's a building, or the lot that are considered non-conforming, that may present a problem. But I think that's something we have to talk to Ben about.
Oh, how about we do this, rather than belabor this anymore? Counsel, can you contact Ben and discuss it with him and get your take on it?
Yeah, but are you going to have a final survey from this person? Because instead of a draft?
I guess I have the final survey.
I think the whole point of the situation was, do you want us to consider your application? Which lot? Which scenario? Do we have to decide that? That was sort of how we got down this path. Does he have to make that decision, and that's what we deliberate on?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you, based on what you just said, if you're asking me to consider this tonight and make a decision, I can't vote yes on it with the way the lot line is.
Okay.
I'm being honest. That's just me. That's not everybody else.
I think that's the
agree.
consensus right now, just informally, that it wouldn't conform.
Okay. Wish I would've have told me that a long time ago. But
Oh,
that's all
we-
right.
no, we
just in
did-
general, the building department couldn't have told me, anybody could.
I
No,
think
but-
he
but
thought
I-
that's why
I
you were
had
doing
told
it.
you
Yeah.
2 meetings ago that we needed a copy of the survey.
No, I sent the surveys.
No, I know that, but it's not a stamped survey, it's a draft, and
I think everyone just assumed that because you were getting that addition, that any problems that came from your original lot not ending at the proper place, that would all be resolved, and there were assumptions made, and I apologize, so,
Okay.
yeah.
No, it's all right. All right.
I didn't make any assumptions, just so
That's
you
okay.
know.
That's all right.
Okay.
We'll do it again.
Do you want to
Okay.
continue this then?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I'll make a motion to keep open the continuation of the public hearing regarding short-term rental application 21 Front Street, SBL 16-3-1. How much time would you like? You want to do it on the 17th of June, or would you like to go into July, which
Well, I
is
would-
the
I mean,
15th?
Obviously, I'd like the quickest, but I don't know how long that.
Yeah, but can you, that's why I'm asking, can you get your issues solved? Can you get a survey? Can you get the,
Did you receive a
Conditions.
copy of the conditions, or your attorney from the
My attorney did, I did.
planning board?
They told me that everything was conditional, they were working and moving forward, everything, from what I
Okay.
understood, everything was,
Yeah.
was done. Actually, as a matter of fact, there's non-complying items on the other property that they were not able to tell me what the fines were. It was actually kind of daunting having to sign something not knowing what the fines were going to be. So nobody could tell me. But they've actually told me what the fines are now. So from what I understand, pretty much, they wouldn't tell me what the fines were until that was finalized. And they told me the fines.
This, to me, just sounds like if he can actually prove that his original property that he applied for, we don't actually have to make that decision right now then. If he wants to come back
I mean, it
with
sounds
some
like-
kind of
it
acceptable
sounds like
proof,
this is pretty much
if
it.
there
I
are
would-
issues.
I would like if you let our attorney speak to the building inspector, and then possibly the building inspector get in contact, so that.
Yeah, that's fine.
All
I
right.
can go
Yeah,
over
I'll
it
call
with them.
I'll call my surveyor tomorrow.
Okay.
And see where we are, and then the attorneys. I mean, you want me to reach out to Valerie or something, and then see how quickly
Yeah,
we can
that'd be
move on
great.
this?
So you
But-
want to try
but-
2
but-
weeks, and if worse comes to worse, you'll just have to come back in July. So you
Okay.
want
Okay.
2 weeks.
Okay.
So
Yeah, let's go for June.
I'll add to that motion at 7 PM or immediately thereafter on June 17th.
We'll
That
second.
works. All right.
Okay.
I
Call
appreciate
the
it.
question?
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Full aye.
Richardson, I.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for your patience.
No problem. Have a good night. Thank
All right, you too. Okay, item 4.7, I'll make a motion to open the continuation of public hearing regarding proposed local law E-V1 of 2023, Chapter 41, sewer system revisions. Councilwoman Bingham.
Do we have anybody from the
I
public?
need a second.
Second?
I'll second.
Call the question?
I'll second.
Sorry.
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Full aye.
Richardson, I.
Sorry
No
about
public
that.
comment.
No public comment? Okay, so Mr. Nugent did look over the revision that Sean and I had worked on back in April, and there was a question regarding Section 41-14B, maintenance bond, and it's, how long do we want to hold that open for how many number of years? So the way it's written now, I believe if, Mr. Nugent, you have the exact language, because I only have part of it here. The maintenance bond is for 5 years, but it could be released after 1 year. And you thought that was inconsistent. It should be,
It read as if it was for 5 years, but then at the end, somebody added 1 year, like as a change, so I think Sean may have, so it appears inconsistent. I think it should be whatever it is. The town would say, you need to provide a maintenance bond, and we just need to decide the period of time. Now, for example, I think I had said in the email, road dedications are typically 1 year from when the town accepts the road. You have a maintenance bond for a year. But as I pointed out, sewer infrastructure might be a little bit more complicated than a road, so you may want to go longer on the maintenance bond. I think Sean said typically problems would show up in a year. I threw in 2 years in the draft, figuring, sort of split the,
With the baby.
not exactly splitting the difference, but, going with 2
now,
years.
there's one other question. Can the developer come back to the town board sooner than what we put in the code and be released sooner. So if we did 5 and 5 and, there's no problems and the developer wants his money after 3 years, could he come before the board and ask for it to be released early, even though we have 5 and 5 in the code?
If you would need to write that, because typically you wouldn't do that for a maintenance bond. You might do that on a performance case or something, because they finish the work, it appears satisfactory, and you release. But the purpose of a maintenance bond is you don't know what may show up, 8 months, a year, or 14 months later. So it's not the kind of bond where you're saying you've satisfied the condition and now we're willing to release it. The very purpose of it is that you're satisfied. And look, there's always normal wear and tear and things that are going to happen. It's not that they have to guarantee it forever, but it's the period of time that the town feels satisfied that if it wasn't done properly, the work and the infrastructure, that you would see signs of that. And I believe Sean, mentioned a year. That's why I put in 2, figuring it'd give you some insurance. But you could go longer. I don't think if you do that, you should release it earlier, though. If you feel that 5 years is what's needed for you to see a problem, then I believe you should keep the 5 years and not have a provision for early release. But you don't have to go that long. You can go 2, 3, whatever you think is appropriate.
I just know the way soil settles sometimes, it doesn't show up, like you said, right away within a year. So 2 was a compromise, but I think 3 would secure the town.
That was my thought.
Would secure the town better. So could you make that revision to change it to 5 years and then release after 3?
Yeah, we'll
And that's
reduce that to
just
3, and
yeah.
I think otherwise, we have a, red line and a clean, we can just send the clean version with the 3 years, and then if you want to either close or continue and then close at the next meeting, we could adopt at that point.
Okay, so it'll be 3 then. All right, there was another error you found. We do have to discuss fees, but that would be after we adopt this. And then, I thought there was one more you mentioned, that was one more inconsistency. Unlawful discharges, section 41-57.
Is that the sewer and sewage language?
No, that was unlawful discharge to a natural water outlet, a natural outlet that receives the water.
Oh, I think it was the word subsequent. That was the very end that we talked about, because
Yes.
it said subsequent, but it was close to the last section of the code.
So we just removed the word subsequent.
Yeah, so it just says in accordance with the provision of this chapter instead of the subsequent provisions. And I think you pointed out it might have been an old reference to chapter 42, or it might have gotten moved around. But yeah, we just removed the word subsequent there.
Okay, so I would suggest that we keep this hearing open, ask for a clean version, and then for June 17th for it to be finalized at that time.
Yeah, that will work. We can get the clean version to you probably tomorrow, so you'll have it and you can put it out to the public.
I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing for EV1 of 2023, Chapter 41, sewage systems, to continue till June 17th at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible.
I'll second. Question?
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye?
Pool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved.
Thank you.
Next up, you're welcome. Thank you for the info, Mary. Next item is 4.9, motion to open the public hearing regarding zone change petition project 230160, 18 Stairway, which is an SBL 3-1-25. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye?
Pool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. You're back. Good evening. Just please state your name, your company, where you live, how many kids you have.
Do it all into the microphone.
Yes.
All right, good evening. David Higgins from Lang Tully Engineering and Surveying.
Okay.
I do have actually the notices for the hearing that were sent out, which I can hand to the...
Yeah, you give it to the clerk, please.
So again, thanks for having me here tonight. I maybe would like to just provide a sort of a summary of where we have been and what brought me here to the meeting here tonight. You may remember I was here in May, and the petition that was submitted to the town board was in relation to 18 Stairway, tax lot 3-1-25, also known as the property where Masterclass Pistol Range is located. That property is 2.7 acres, and the owner of that property is Alice Serpy. And essentially, the owner had received a building permit for a garage, the existing garage on the property, that was issued in 2016. Then at the time that the garage was supposed to be for an accessory to the Masterclass Pistol Range. Since that time in 2016, the owner had been allowing the Monroe Landscaping to use the garage for the storage of landscape equipment. In June of 2023, the owner received a notice of violation from the building department that they needed to receive site plan approval for the use of the garage in that manner. The owner then retained our services, Lang & Tully, to prepare a site plan for that use. And in the course of doing that, and in our submission to the town planning board, it was determined that the use as a landscape or contractor storage yard is not permissible in the GB district, which is the zoning district in which the property exists. Essentially, it was determined that there were two courses of action that the applicant could make, which was to petition the town to change the zoning for the GB district to allow landscape or contractor storage materials in the GB district, or the applicant would need to apply to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance, a use variance. So the applicant has made the petition to the town board to modify the GB zoning district to allow that use. And in so doing, I know we prepared certain materials, some of which was, the zoning map showing some of the adjoining areas, and that the heavy industry and the light industry districts, which are also located in that general vicinity, do allow the use as a special permit for landscape and contractor storage. So our petition is to ask the town to consider making that change to the GB district to allow that use. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Question for the attorney. This would only apply to this one parcel, or would it be for any parcel in the GB district?
Any parcel in the GB.
Any?
Yeah, it would be adding a use, permitted in the GB. So any zone that's GB would be receiving this change.
Do we know how many parcels other than this one are in the GB zone?
I didn't count them, but I know that in what I submitted was that I believe there are two areas of the town that are in the GB district, I believe. So you probably have a digital version of this as well. But the GB district is essentially this dark green area. So that's this area in here. Subject property is located right here. And then the other area in the town is this area right here, just before you get into the village of Harriman. So they're fairly minor areas. I also did point out that portions of those areas are going to be basically very difficult to be developed due to the topography or due to water resources that are in the area, basically the lakes. So that there's a limit on what can be done on some of those properties to begin with because of environmental constraints. And then the areas that I pointed out were the light industry district and the heavy industry district. Again, at least those are just the ones that I picked out that happen to be adjacent to the GB district that we're seeking to have modified.
Thank you.
Did you, Max?
Just sent it a few hours ago. He gave us, he was supposed to give us an official memo in response to this, so I haven't even reviewed that, but it came in today. So in any event, this would have to be continued because the local law itself, it wasn't distributed in sufficient time. So either way, we would continue this.
All right.
And then in the meantime, you can review the planner's memo and allow the applicant, to respond to it with any comments.
So we are not concerned at this time with the subsequent steps that we've been provided because we're continuing it? Because I think my questions, was Harriman notified if we are potentially changing?
No, the sort of threshold question is if you want to consider this, moving forward with it. This is a local law, so it would require an actual amendment to the zoning. So you would continue this hearing. It would need to be sent for GML review. It would need to be sent to Harriman. There are other steps that would have to go forward before you could even consider adopting. But I was just pointing out that the local law in itself wasn't distributed, so you'd have to continue. But it's going to not be something you're going to adopt next month or at next meeting, because the county planning board is going to have at least 30 days for their review, and then the village.
So our obligation right now is just motion to open, listen to comment, respond to any questions, and then
Yeah, and the public, if anybody wished to speak about it, and then to review and provide the planner's comments to the applicant, and for yourselves to review those, because you may see concerns from the planner that make you decide you don't want to do this, or...
right, but we didn't get those. That's not
Right.
something we can do tonight, so,
Exactly.
okay.
Motion to open the public hearing regarding the zoning change petition, Project 23016018 Stairway, SBL 3-1-25, until June 17th at 7 p.m. or immediately thereafter.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Sal?
Sal.
Sal. So, you understand?
Yes, so
Okay.
because the local law needs to be distributed, you need some time for feedback on that.
And we have the planner's comments, which will get to you, and then prior to the next continuation, you can respond to those, and the board will have an opportunity to review them.
Okay, so we'll be back here on June 17th, is that correct?
Yes, and we
Yeah.
have sufficient documentation at this point to send out, for GML review. We have the AF, we have the local law, so we can at least get that process started as well.
Okay, all right, so.
Thank you very
see
much.
then. Okay, thank you, have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Okay. Next up, acceptance of May 20th, 2024 minutes, 5.1.
We'll make a motion that we accept the May 20th, 2024 minutes as they have been submitted by the town clerk.
A second for discussion. I had already discussed this with Val, but I've noticed on other town board meetings, sometimes when it says council, I don't know if Mr. Nugent is here or if Dylan is here or, who the council is. So I had asked her if she could include on the top where it says members present, also other members present, such as maybe the highway superintendent or somebody else. Yeah, so I'd say going forward.
So that's fine, but to my knowledge, when I do reference town council, I usually reference town council Nugent, if it's Brian who's here. Unless it's something maybe in a transcription or something.
Right, because in Resolution 2024, number 309, it says, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Monroe made a motion to authorize council to look into what other towns are doing in regards to fees for short-term rentals. Okay, so that's why I just think for clarification going forward.
That's fine, yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to be clear, I agree with you. It's good to put the name up there, but on the resolution, obviously, that's just referring to, if it's something we're looking into, it's not
Law
necessarily the
office.
person that was at the meeting.
Right, right. But still, I just think for clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So, acceptance of... Second? Call the question.
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone abstain, I was absent.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved. Okay, item 6.1, amended general fund abstract from 5/20/24. I will make a motion to approve.
Bingham will second.
Any discussion? Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Full aye.
Okay.
Richardson, aye.
What was that?
Oh, you voted? Oh, okay.
Item 6.2, general fund abstract. My apologies, because I did not. Amount from 5/20/24 is $514,614.02. Okay, item 6.2, general fund abstract. Be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Monroe request approval of abstract 24-7, general fund containing checks 35320 through 35384, totaling $259,881.45. I'll make that motion.
Bingham to second for discussion. I think there are some vouchers in there that are not going to have 3 signatures, and we'll have the same kind of problem that we had with the abstract from 5/20. So I would suggest we table this until the vouchers are all signed and have 3 signatures.
Second to table.
So let me have those vouchers that you're,
Has to do with mileage on some of the vouchers.
okay, who's it pertaining to?
Supervisor.
Okay, why don't we discuss it tonight?
Okay, the WTBQ vouchers.
Okay,
The way, in January, when we passed the resolution regarding mileage, there was a line that said it had to be for the public. If I can find it, I actually did make a copy.
The bottom line really is that it doesn't have 3 signatures on it.
Yeah. But
It's a state law.
the way the voucher is listed, it just says mileage to WTBQ, and it doesn't say what was discussed in relationship for the town of Monroe. Because when you go like to the Association of Towns or you went to the county, then you definitely identified what you were talking about in regards to how it would be on behalf of the town. So I finally found the copy. It says mileage reimbursement allowance, whereas the Monroe Town Board has determined to pay a fixed rate of 67 cents per mile as reimbursement to officers and employees of the town who use their personal automobiles while performing their official duties on behalf of the town. So I'd like to know what official duties were done at WTBQ.
Beyond,
okay, so, you want to answer that for me?
no, I was going to add to the point, but if you want to
Go ahead,
address questions one at a time, that's fine.
go ahead.
Mary, could you please read again? Does it say elected officials or employees, or
It says reimbursement to officers and employees of the town.
so all official duties? But once again, the vouchers don't have 3 signatures. I also, just in my opinion, for elected officials, and I guess we could get an opinion from the attorney on it, your salary is set, and you set your own hours, and you set your own agendas and activities, and the salary that we pay the supervisor is relatively high for this area already. I don't see the need specifically to reimburse for mileage wherein it's not a task to run to the bank, it's not training, it's not something that you can directly, point to as a public benefit, but rather something that you are doing as a part of your elected choice of how you conduct yourself in this role as supervisor.
So I will say this. If you read the town handbook, the town employee handbook, it states at section 506, expense reimbursement, it states upon proper authorization and approval of the town board, an employee or elected official will be reimbursed expenses associated with carrying out town business.
That's precisely
Now,
right. Upon
If you-
proper authorization,
I'm not done, Councilwoman Richardson.
not 3 signatures.
So, Mary, I guess what's troubling to me, Mary, and I have respect for you, For the past 6 years, you've approved this. Now, all of a sudden, Councilwoman Richardson brings this up this year, and you don't want to approve it.
Actually, I
No.
stopped approving it in
Yeah.
the end of last year because there were items I was hearing from residents that items that were discussed at that radio talk show had little relevance or no relevance to Town of Monroe items.
And yet checks were still dispersed to you,
Okay, so.
and there were
let
not
me-
3 signatures.
let me-
Okay, Councilwoman, I would just like to hear Supervisor Cordone's reply.
Let me state this. I have been on that radio station since 2018. We have not only benefited from it through the county and the relationships we built there, we've benefited promoting town events, everything from the Food Truck Festival to projects that the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts do. We have also created a great relationship through this with CDBG. We've benefited from the promotion of not only town items specifically, but village items, village events, village, the farmers market. We've benefited from our trunk or treat. I have had people come up to me at some of these events saying, hey, I heard you on WTBQ, otherwise I wouldn't have been here. Now, if after 6 years you really want to put a kibosh on this, then I'll be happy to stop going to the radio station, and we will see how much of a decline we have in what's been going on in the town.
I think you can still go, we just don't want to pay for it.
Well, I also think the village mayors have also gone to WTBQ, and if they want to publicize the farmers market or the concerts or whatever, I think that's an option as well. But the way the voucher was written, it just said mileage. It did not give a specific reason as to what was discussed at the radio station as it related to Monroe, and that's what I have a problem with. There was not enough information on the voucher itself.
And we also,
Voucher has been written like that for 6 years.
Well, sometimes
And-
we change things.
And, all right, that's fine, you change things. I will tell you that probably 80 to 85% of what discussed has to do with town or county business. We discuss assessments. We discuss how much of your taxes are school taxes. We discuss, I have had different people from the county on to help with people understanding what the different departments at the county do, like Office of Emergency Services. I mean, it's something that's constantly ongoing. You're entitled to your opinion. We have a motion before us to approve the abstract. If anybody else wants to say anything,
I feel that you go there and you may represent town business as Supervisor Cardone or Tony Cardone, the political figure, in my opinion. You don't only mention town business, and we as a board are not given the opportunity to submit items that you may speak about. I have never heard from what's been conveyed to me, there are other elected officials in the area complaining about it. There are constituents complaining about it. Councilwoman Bingham's signature, as she described, did stop. We have vouchers that were not properly signed by 3 individuals, and checks were dispersed to you. It's programming that we are not approving or have any say over, and that's fine if you want to represent yourself, but if I went to a radio station tomorrow to talk about that kind of topic and I submitted it for reimbursement, would you pay my mileage to drive there? I even called the radio station to speak with Frank, is it? And he said that it does fulfill their official programming. Steve Newhouse and all of those other types of elected officials do come down. It's worth noting you did call in from the town and didn't have to drive at all, and we didn't have to pay for that mileage. I don't know, I would guess we'd have to ask the other elected officials if they're reimbursing their mileage. If we're speaking about political issues, on the radio. In that time, it becomes, in my opinion, dicey with ethics. So that's my 2 cents on it, especially if you're insulting residents. When they message in and we're paying for it with town dollars, it makes it an official town forum where I would hope you'd conduct yourself similarly to a town board meeting and not reprise against residents who message in or ask questions, because it's another opportunity, if we are going to approve this and approve programming and say that it's from your official position, to have that interaction with constituents on behalf of the town.
So we want to hold up all of the bills that need to be paid for these 3. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, we did it
That-
the last time, too.
And that's
I mean, it's illegal, isn't it? I mean, I was told just today that it's a state law that it has to have 3 signatures. My document request for reimbursement, which was vital to my position as I was answering constituent and fellow elected officials' questions, and did use that to back up our records as well as make an informed decision on this dais to request an authorization from Morangi, was denied because it did not get 3 signatures. And now this will not.
So then this discussion is being done to retaliate against
No,
us
we are
not-
saying
No.
that those bills
Well,
on the
that's what it sounds
abstract-
like to me. It sounds like to
Okay.
me like this is retaliatory.
That's nice. It's that they have not received 3 signatures, and if we have to separate those items, how do we do so?
So let me just say this. The reason you didn't get my signature on your voucher is you contacted, not Morangi, you contacted the village for Morangi's contract.
I
And the
contacted
vill- I'm
all
not
of
done.
them.
I'm not done. And the village gave you 80-something copies that you paid for when they could have electronically sent it to
No.
us. Okay, and if that's not the case, then the documents that the town would be paying for were not all provided to the clerk.
Yes, they were.
Clerk, can you?
There was one document that I had made photocopies of. In fact, I think they were minutes from the village. I forget how many pages it was.
But they were all, everything that I had gotten, I provided to you, and we sat in your office and compared them.
Right,
So
there
that's
was-
not accurate that they were not provided to her.
There was just the one packet that I had made photocopies of.
I don't understand. Can you
Madam-
clarify? I think we're talking about different things. He's saying that I didn't give you what I had.
Madam
I
Clerk,
gave you everything that I received from the village, and I needed to contact the village for the Morangi contract because of the town business that was brought before us, that the clerk's office was overloaded. I kept requesting what I thought was clear scope of service, contract, amendment to contract. Mayor Dwyer had gone through the same rigmarole. I requested it from the village to receive every version. I said any and all. Kim was able to get that to me. They do not provide digital documents. I had to pay. I called her in advance and asked her what her policy was, and then she said I had to pay. And I sat there and I read it in my office for like 2.5 hours and was able to answer a ton of constituents' questions about the garbage contract. I immediately shared that with our clerk for her to have and photocopy and put into our files. And I was not provided, unfortunately, due to the confusion, due to the many people searching for the contract, due to the overload of the clerk's office at that time, with the documents that I had requested, despite that we had actually given those same documents to Mayor Dwyer. So, yes, I had to, in order to fulfill my role, do that, unfortunately. So,
okay, Madam
it's
Clerk.
also irrelevant. If it doesn't have 3 signatures on it, how do we proceed with that?
Brian, before you answer that question, could I just ask Madam Clerk something? So Madam Clerk, you showed me the documents that were provided to you, and they were minutes from like 1990-something.
That was
Okay?
the only, that was the,
No,
Right, Councilwoman Richardson just stated she got the garbage contract,
Yes.
okay, and she reviewed it for 2 hours. You did not get that, did you?
She had it. I
Doesn't-
took it
doesn't-
out, and
doesn't-
we compared what she had with what I had.
So then you
And the
said you
thing-
turned over all the documents, but now you're
did-
saying
What are you talking
compared.
about, Mr. Cardone? Listen, open your ears. She had them, and we stood there and compared the $20 worth of documents, and the only thing that she didn't have was the village meeting minutes and a couple additional items. She had access, everything that I had was provided to her. She said, I have this, thank you, and she photocopied and put into our records the couple things, the couple items that she did not have.
It was that one packet.
Yes.
So when we spoke, you had told me about it, and you said that Councilwoman Richardson said the rest was garbage and it was thrown out. Am I correct in saying that? Okay. Okay, back to the issue at hand. Okay.
Mr. Nugent was
Mr.
going to
Nugent,
identify
what
if
is our-
three
yeah.
signatures are needed and what our options are.
So the comptroller has issued guidance that typically your process is to have signatures on the vouchers, but if you're discussing abstracts or claims here at the board meeting and you make a decision to approve, as long as you identify what you're approving or disapproving, the board minutes and the vote would be sufficient to identify the approval or disapproval of the claim. In other words, it's not a statutory mandate that that there be 3 signatures on the voucher, but typically, you know, if you're discussing a particular item like this one tonight, and you approve or disapprove it, your board minutes would suffice for that approval or disapproval, regardless of the actual signature. But then you would just take the minutes and put it with the claim, you know, so that it's on file.
So when my voucher for the document request reimbursement was removed from the abstract prematurely
Right, and I don't know.
and did not come to this,
I'm talking about the law, not your policy. If your policy is to have 3 signatures, that's internal.
is it the law to have 3 signatures?
No, it
Because
is
we've
not.
been given now 2
No,
from our departments.
The comptroller says that initialing a signature is not mandated because the minutes, but you have to identify what's being approved or
So
disapproved.
then my document request for reimbursement was improperly removed from the original abstract because it didn't have 3 signatures. That is not the law. It's a policy, just like all of his prior documents that did not have 3 signatures. If it was approved at the dais, it would have been approved, and it was plucked.
It was put back, though.
No, you removed
Yes.
it from the abstract.
No, it wasn't removed from the abstract. It was put back in the pile.
No, but we're now speaking about 2 separate issues. I understand that you put the document back in the pile to be signed, but we are now stating that signatures are just an internal policy. So if I didn't get 3 signatures in the same way that prior abstracts of yours have not always had 3 signatures, they are legally approved once placed on the abstract and the board votes on them. The finance department placed my reimbursement requests on the abstract, and Supervisor Cardone had to literally cancel the check. He canceled the check, he pulled it out, and that is why we did not know what to do with the abstract, because it was listed, and then it was also listed an additional check because they had combined 2 of my requests into 1. That was on there, and then the second check was redispersed to me at a different value, but both of them were on there. And when we spoke with Dylan, he did not know how to amend that, and we did not know.
So generally speaking, and you're giving me a lot of facts I wasn't involved in, so I don't know what happened in this particular voucher, but one of the reasons you sign vouchers usually is also an indication to show that they were reviewed and that the auditing process is being done. It's not just approval, but also that you looked at the documents and the backup. If there's a problem with an abstract, my recommendation is usually if there's something in there that's a problem, you remove that and otherwise approve the claims that are not disputed. And then you can either discuss it and vote separately on that item, but it doesn't make sense to me to fail to approve the entire abstract because
No,
of
that
one or
was
2 items.
unintentional out of just not having you here. We even asked if we could, and it was just the recommendation to be safe that we didn't have
Yeah, that's
information
fine.
at hand.
I'm just telling you now, that's the way I would handle it. If there's a problem.
We didn't know how to phrase it, anything. We didn't know how to make the motion. So you would motion to separate out check number XYZ.
Or you would move to approve the abstract with the exception of invoice, whatever, or claim number, whatever, which would not be approved, and then you either discuss that or you just leave it till the next meeting if it's not resolvable that evening.
Yes, see,
We have a motion before us with a second. We went back and forth, talked about the different scenarios. I'd like to call the question.
which
Question
question?
was to table.
Yeah,
The motion was to table. Is that what you want to do?
We have a motion with a second,
for discussion.
okay, for discussion.
And then she made a subsequent motion to table, which I seconded.
Don't you have to call the question on the first one prior to? All right, so, okay, here's what we
Motion
do.
to table would
We got
take.
a motion to table, second down here. Call that question.
Aye.
Nay.
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 Nay, since we can dispute individually.
Okay. So now we have the motion regarding the abstract. Call the question.
Don't have a second.
Who will
You
second?
seconded
Mary
for
seconded.
discussion.
But
was the
now he
underlying
wants
motion.
the approval.
What?
You're right, the underlying motion
She
you
did.
seconded.
That's why if you're going to dispute something, you should wait for someone to second it and then say discussion. You shouldn't provide your own second for discussion.
Councilwoman Bingham seconded, correct?
That was
Yes.
a main motion, yes. The motion
Okay.
to table then came up secondarily. Now we're back to the main motion.
Which
Okay.
she did second.
Which you seconded. Call the question.
Is this where I say except for the 3 vouchers?
You'd have to make a
have-
new subsequent motion.
This is the motion before us.
You would
This
have-
is the motion that has to be voted on.
No, you can make a new subsequent motion to exclude.
Move to amend. If you wish to
Provide
do that.
phrasing, please.
I'm sorry?
Can you assist Mary with phrasing?
I'm lost. I
It's-
don't want to approve those 3 vouchers. So the motion that's on the table
Right.
now is to approve the entire abstract.
All right, so you can make a secondary motion, kind of like you just did with the table, to amend the current motion, and then we would only vote on this amendment, which you want to remove, and you would identify what you want to remove.
Okay, so I want to amend the motion regarding general fund abstract to exclude the 3 vouchers that are in the abstract from Supervisor Cardone.
Okay, so if the board wishes to exclude those, you would vote aye for this motion to amend. If you do not think they need to be excluded, you would vote nay on the motion to amend. So this next vote is only on Councilwoman Bingham's motion to amend. If she has a second, I don't know.
Second.
Call the question.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're back to the main motion, which is to
Now-
approve the abstract.
Back to the main motion.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, so moved. Mary, if you would like, I will detail what I discuss at meetings.
Yes,
I
please
just-
do.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
it's appalling that you even brought this up.
No, it's
It
not. I'm
clarified a
sorry.
lot of
There were
questions that needed to be addressed.
Okay. Next item.
And it set
cash
precedent
transfer
for your
app-
inappropriate removal of my voucher. Thank you
Cash
for that.
transfer abstract. I told you, I will sign your voucher, get her the documents. So the
Thank
cash
you.
transfer abstract. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Monroe made a motion to approve abstract 2024-3 to move cash back to funds from New York Class Investments to cover furniture expenditures in 2024 totaling $220,000.
Who will second?
Call the question.
Bingham, aye?
Cardone, aye.
Who, aye.
Richardson, aye.
So moved. Okay, item 8.1 is a budget transfer abstract. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Monroe approves budget transfer abstract 2024-11 totaling $8,370.72. Transfer for Drainage District 18, Lake Sapphire Drainage District to reimburse town for prior year's expenses. The reason for this is the district was formed in '23 and taxed in '24. Call, do I have a
Who will
second?
second?
Who will second? Call the question.
Bingham, aye?
Cardone, aye.
Who, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved. Budget transfer abstract 8.2. Be it resolved, the town board of town of Monroe approves budget transfer abstract 2024-12 totaling $41,695.43.
Hool, second.
2024 expenditure adjustments. Seconded by Councilwoman Hool. Call the question.
Hingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Hool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
So moved. Next up is the Employee Handbook, Section 503. The change, resolution approving the following update to the Town of Monroe Employee Handbook. Section 503, breaks for nursing mothers to express breast milk. The town will provide paid break time for 30 minutes and permit an employee to use existing paid break time or meal time in excess of 30 minutes to allow an employee to express breast milk for the employee's nursing child each time the employee has reasonable need to express breast milk. The difference is the previous statement was that you had up to 20 minutes, I believe. This is a state change in state requirements. So I'll make that motion to approve that. Question?
Hingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Hool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Item 9.2, sadly, I'll make a motion to be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Monroe makes a motion to accept the retirement and resignation of Webster Johnson, Maintenance Department, effective May 31, 2024. Webster has been an extremely honorary employee, and he sent us a letter, which I'd like to read. It says, Town of Monroe, Town Clerk, while serving the Town of Monroe in building and maintenance, I found great joy in my work. Working with dedicated individuals within this community has been truly special to me. Though I can't personally name each person, please know that each of you has left a mark on my heart. As I prepare to close this chapter of my life, I'm grateful for the wonderful 8 years I spent in the Town of Monroe. It has been a privilege to serve this community and to work alongside such dedicated individuals. Although I will retire effective May 31, 2024, the memories and relationships I've formed here will always hold a significant place in my life. Thank you all for making my time here truly memorable. Thanks again, Webster Johnson. Okay, motion to approve that. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Call the question.
Hingham, aye, regretfully. Sad to see him go.
Yeah, great guy. Always happy, always smiling.
Yep, I will say aye regretfully as well, and we will acknowledge Webster in the future at a town board meeting.
I have no other choice but to say aye, even though we'll miss him terribly.
Richardson, aye. Thank you.
Okay, so moved. Item 9.3, resignation from Brendan Cuniff. Okay, Brendan was hired recently as a seasonal employee in the maintenance department. I will read his letter to the town clerk. I will be leaving my job with the Town of Monroe after this week due to the fact that another job, one in which I had applied for a long time ago, has reached out and offered me employment. I will state that that's more of a career-type job that he's going to. Although untimely with the recent start of my job here, it is definitely in my best interest to take up this opportunity. My final day of employment will be this Friday, May 31st, 2024. Of course, I'm very thankful for you, Anne-Marie, and all the staff for not only hiring me, but helping me throughout this past month and being very friendly co-workers. Signed, Brendan Cuniff. So I'll make a motion to approve his resignation.
Hingham to second.
Call the question.
Hingham, aye. Again, regretfully, I did have a chance to speak to him one time here, and a very nice gentleman, and I wish him all the best.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
His new employer will be lucky to have him. Hool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Item 9.4 is Phil Valenza. It's the end of his probationary period, so I'll make a motion approving the end of the appointment probationary period for Philip Valenza, part-time Assistant Building Inspector 3, effective May 20th, 2024. Call the question.
Hingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Hool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Next up is a resolution regarding the community garden at Town Hall. So I'm going to make a motion based on a draft that was submitted to us, which is a garden packet and application. Be it resolved to accept the Town of Monroe 2024 Community Garden Packet and Application, Fee for the community plots is $35 per plot and will be available at Town of Monroe residents on a first-come basis. A mandatory gardeners meeting will be held in June, date to be announced via Town of Monroe Constant Contact. We encourage all residents to sign up for Constant Contact to be aware of all town-sponsored events and important information concerning town business. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh,
Call the question.
Hingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, aye, and thank you to Anne Marie and Kelly, who worked for 2 years on that garden, so I'm excited.
Okay, item 9.6, WIA grant application, Water District 14. This is a resolution authorizing the Town of Monroe to apply for water infrastructure improvement. Mary, would you like to read the whereases?
Sure.
Got it?
Whereas the Environmental Facilities Corporation is soliciting applications through the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act for clean and drinking water improvement projects, and whereas the Town of Monroe has identified an identifiable need to conduct infrastructure improvements to Water District 14, and now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the town supervisor or his designee to submit an application to the Environmental Facilities Corporation Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant program for the infrastructure improvements at Water District number 14. Be it further resolved that the town supervisor and any other officer or employee as directed by the town supervisor is hereby authorized to take any and all necessary actions to carry out the provisions of this resolution.
Adopted this day.
Adopted this date, the 3rd day of June, 2024.
I'll second it. Call the question.
Hingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Item 9.7, Millennium Strategy Service Continuation Agreement. I'll make a motion to approve the Millennium Strategy Service Continuation Agreement for grant writing services for the Town of Monroe. The proposed monthly retainer fee of $3,300 for an amount not to exceed $39,600 per annum reflects no increase over the prior year's agreement.
Hingham to second.
Discussion?
Call.
Did you want to bring, or am I good to go on my comments?
I think it's a good idea that we still use them. They've been very diligent in trying to get us applications. I do know that there is a report that the supervisor gets that shows them, so I'm just going to ask the supervisor if he could make that the latest copy available.
Yeah, I spoke with Millennium multiple times and asked for the monthly reporting to be sent out to all of us, and then received an email back that that would be a change in policy. That's no such case. I called and spoke with someone higher up. They expressed that this is boilerplate language for use by the entire town board, no limiting use for us. Those like monthly reports should be sending.
Boilerplate language meaning the contract?
Yeah, that it's something that they use across multiple towns.
The boilerplate is in regards to that they provide a monthly report.
Sorry, the boilerplate language is what I'm referring to as the use, for our use.
For our
that,
use.
There's no limitation on use, and for me to have requested a monthly service report was not a change in service. And have we been receiving, has your office been receiving monthly reports from Millennium?
My office?
Yes.
Yes.
Monthly?
Yes.
Okay, so I asked for those multiple times, so I would just expect that we would adhere to this agreement as it is a legal agreement, which has, again, no limitation in use and does include each and every one of the board members who sit on this board for both use of the grant company and for reporting. And the public is paying $3,300 a month, and I shouldn't be told that I'm not allowed to use the grant company or speak with the grant company. So I would like that to be verbally confirmed on the record for my vote.
I think everybody should get the report. Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
And Millennium said they would send it out to everyone. I have no problem with that.
And that everyone can use the grant company.
When you say everyone can use the grant company, it creates a little bit of a crossing of lines. When you say use them, everyone on this board does use them with all the grants. Now, they were a little bit displeased with the way some of your calls were handled.
Oh, you mean the ones where they told me that you actively told them that I can't use it? And then they
Actively.
said, oh, okay.
There we go.
So then there's no problem.
Another-
If I can use it, then there's no
another-
problem at all.
Another one of your lies, Mrs.
Sure, it's on a
Richardson.
recording and there's an ethics complaint about it, but
Yeah.
Awesome.
So then provide that recording.
I have to the
Do
ethics
you
board.
have the recording that I said that to them?
No, not to you. So if there's no problem for me using it, there's no problem. I can use it.
I have no problem with you getting the report.
No, I want to apply for grants just like every seated member
Okay,
of this
so,
board.
so, so here,
And
Let
you
me
don't-
just short circuit that. The use, when you say that, or approval, has to be done by the board. In other words,
Yeah.
no, an individual council person can't apply for a grant, just to be clear.
Right.
It's got to be the board approving a grant, an
you need a
application like you're
resolution
doing
to
tonight.
apply for every grant.
If I contact Millennium to use them, that would be, hello, I'm interested in this. Do we comply with this, da, 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 and all their expertise and the things that they would do to scope out that grant and prepare that to come to the board,
Okay,
just
so-
like everybody else, just like everybody else. I'm not
No,
asking for
no,
anything
not-
additional.
Not just like everybody else.
Yeah,
So
just
I'm the
like everybody.
liaison, I'm the liaison to the grant company.
No, you're not.
If you have.
Aren't,
maybe-
isn't Dory the liaison to the grant company?
What's that?
Wasn't Dory the liaison to the grant company, or is that one of the 5 different liaison additions that we've been,
All right.
you know?
Listen, we have a motion before us.
No, the motion is
So the motion
to
is already
discuss-
passed.
What?
So we have
Motion-
4 ayes.
yeah, the motion passed,
We have 4
so-
ayes. Your
Who
vote-
said, did we vote?
Yes.
Yeah, we voted.
Back to you.
Okay, well, I'm asking for my vote's purposes, I haven't voted. Am I allowed to use this service equally, just like every other seated member of this board? It's a very simple question.
So, for instance, when I want to apply for a grant, I talk with Tony. I
Well,
talk
he's
with
told
the
me not to talk
supervisor.
with him, so that kind of presents an issue.
Well, this is why.
Oh, it's
because
not
the
why.
way that you talk with him is
No.
incredibly disrespectful.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So,
I didn't bring a pre-prepared statement. I am just asking if I am going to be acknowledged in this contract as a legal party that is able to use it.
when you
and
cast your
use
vote, you will
terms,
be acknowledged as a legal party to
able
this
to use
contract.
it, and there are no liaisons or limitations to use this company according to the company itself, according to the retainer agreement that I would be voting on.
Okay, did you want to vote yes or no? No? Okay, so
Could
we
you
have a
please
4.
respond, Mr.
We have a
Nugent, to my
4-0
question
vote
of
with an
the-
abstention.
I'm not abstaining. I'm still
You
speaking.
have a vote in progress, so it
I-
came to you. So at this
I
point,
asked for a discussion. I asked for a discussion, didn't I? Okay, so I get 10 minutes.
discussion would have preceded the vote, though.
I said discussion,
Councilwoman
did.
Richardson,
We discussed.
out of respect for the people in
but
the
you
audience.
interrupted my discussion. I just want to know if this language precludes me
I
or
think the
installs
language in the
liaisons in any way, and I asked Dave Jenkins,
I'm
he
willing
said
to
no.
answer that. The language in the contract indicates that the research or grant opportunities is in accordance with the town priorities, which I was expressing before is determined by the town board. So if you want to follow the contract, then if you have an idea, then you bring it to the town board, and then you can all act that way and get approval to go research it or have Millennium research the grant, if you want to operate that way. Or you can establish how you want to handle the grant process. In other words, I don't think you should have a situation where 5 council persons are contacting
They said that's fine.
Millennium.
They actually encouraged that all parties be involved, that we all have specific sets of knowledge. There are other departments heads that also state that it would be very unhelpful for them to have to go through a liaison because that person will not have the knowledge for neither the vendor
please, no.
nor the...
Right, I think the question is, should the town board, so you want a particular grant, if 4 members of the town board all say that's a terrible idea, we're not interested.
I'm not asking for special privileges. I'm asking for equal privileges without liaison restriction because as we've already established, liaisons create special reports. They do not, in the town of Monroe, preclude me from dealing with stakeholders. This stakeholder wants to work with me. I have that. They've already told me that the agreement does not preclude me from working with them, and they've asked me to work with them as well as every other member of this board.
But the agreement does say, in accordance with town priorities, it does say that.
In
okay?
accordance with
The
town priorities for
research.
grants, not for use.
Well,
Not for me
that's
to
who you're
call
using.
them and deal with them and speak with them.
I'm just saying it makes more sense that the board would be in agreement to pursue a grant before.
Sure, it makes sense. This isn't a perfect world. You're right. Nothing that we do makes
Well,
sense most of the time.
Then I guess you have to turn to your board members and they can adopt whatever policy they want for
That's
contacting
not
the
true.
grant
They
company.
could adopt it, and then we could be open to an Article 78 for adoption of an illegal policy, so sure.
What would be illegal about the board adopting a policy?
Precluding an elected official from using, this is what I'm asking.
I disagree with you on that. They could definitely
From precluding them from
preclude.
using a town resource that has no limitation of use in
Okay.
the contract.
I would
Because
disagree
Dave
with you.
Jenkins, I called him specifically
would disagree
about
with you.
this
The board
legal
can,
language, and he stated,
You
no,
want me to
there
answer
is
the
no
question, or
use.
you don't want me to answer the
I'm
question?
just finishing my
Okay.
clarification.
But you stated something that was incorrect. The
Which?
board, as a board, can preclude you from contacting Millennium if they want to establish a policy as a town board. That's the board doing that, the majority of the board. They can say, this is how we're going to deal with Millennium, and this is the process. If they want to say, go through Councilwoman Huell, go through Councilwoman Richardson, or two of you, or however you decide,
I don't believe it would be a policy. I think it would be a law to actually restrict the innate abilities of a council person, which may or may not be subject to referendum from my research. You can't just create a policy that applies to an elected official. You can agree informally to one, but this has been what's been going on with every single town resource, is that there's
the
a
board passed
disparity in
town
use.
rules for meetings, and everybody complies with that. You're suggesting they can't make
They don't
rules?
comply with it, first of all. Second of all, what's the punishment if I break the rule right now?
That's a different question, but you're
I'm
asking.
asking it.
Okay, but there isn't. You're an elected official, but you're still saying that the board can make policies, and I'm saying they can make a policy that says this is how the grant process will work with Millennium.
And if it's not consented to by an elected official, there is no real or is there? Is there a repercussion? Because
you can go ahead and disregard the board's directive and contact Millennium, but the board could contact Millennium with their resolution.
and then Millennium,
could say, we're not speaking to you because
we
we have
already
a
have
resolution.
this. We already have this contract for use that they use. They've already been contacted. They want each of us involved.
Let me clarify that. So I spoke to Dave Jenkins last week, and
I spoke to him 2 days ago.
Dave's comment to me was, in every municipality I work with, I work directly with the supervisor, and then there are requests that come from the board through the supervisor.
No. It's completely opposite to what we had discussed, and I spoke with him 2 days ago, and he is aware that I would be making this discussion tonight because he wants everyone to be treated the way that all his municipalities are treated. He wants the best for Monroe, just like we all do, like I do, and that to deny the public the value of another mind
We're not denying
researching
the public.
grants. You are denying the public, their elected official who they elected to represent them, the ability to research and contact and work with these consultants. That's a devaluation. I would not vote yes on that if I'm not allowed to use it.
Well, listen, we have a motion before us. We have 4 town board members that have voted. Are you going to vote?
I'm just asking if I'm going to be allowed to use this equally and fairly.
That's not
You'll be able to use it in the same capacity that the rest of the members of the board of the town of Monroe use it.
Thank you.
You'll have the same opportunities that everybody else has.
Thank you. Then yes.
And I would
Aye.
appreciate it that it's run by me like the other members of the board have done. Okay. So moved. Okay, next up is the Highway Drainage Study Agreement, which is item 9.7. So,
This is for Highview?
yeah, this is for Highview. So we've had multiple issues up there. It's backed up, I think, 4 times or 3 times in the last 3 years. The most recent one being this past July and September. I believe it was July, and Pat is not here. He's at highway school through Wednesday. But the last time, it actually compromised the road, and it was repaired very quickly. The problem with that culvert is the way it was designed. I believe it has two 90-degree turns in it, which is not conducive to proper flow. And it also had some issues with blockages on those 90-degree turns. So I need someone to make a motion so that supervisor could sign the drainage study.
Who will make a motion authorizing the supervisor of the town of Monroe to sign the drainage study, which will be put together by MHE?
I'll second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Full aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Item 9.9 is the highway garage hazardous materials testing quotes. So the plans are in motion for the highway garage. This is a asbestos testing and then lead-based paint. We got two quotes, Air Environmental Consulting and Adelaide Environmental Health. So Air Environmental was $49.50 and Adelaide Environmental Health is $15,620. I would like to approve the contract with Air Environmental Consulting. We did use them on Water District 12 when it came to asbestos testing. So I'll make a motion to approve Air Environmental Consulting at $4,950.
Bingham to second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Full aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. All right, next up is the short-term rental application for 8th Keith Lane. Everyone has it before him. I'd like to set a public hearing. Council, I know we have to do it at least 14 days, but not more than 45 days.
Yeah, you'd want to leave enough time for publication of the notice for the public hearing, and I think it might be a little short for the 17th. So you'll be within your time frame. What was the date of receipt on this one?
What was the date, what?
They received,
Oh, it was May 30th.
yeah, so you're fine. If you want to
Okay.
go to the July date, you can do that.
But we can do the June date also?
Yeah, if you feel about, you can get the notice out for the 17th?
I can try. The Times Herald Record actually increased their day's notice that they need. I think it's 4 days' notice that they need. It used to be 3 days.
So we can also notice it in the photo news. So I would find out who's quicker.
Are they both designated?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
they're both designated.
But the thing is, if they're both designated, it has to be published in both.
Yeah.
So then why don't we just do it for July then?
July 15.
If you want to go with the 17th, what you could do is set it for the 17th. If for some reason the notice does not get in sufficient time, then just continue it to July 15th, if we don't get the 5 days.
Is your mic on?
Have you seen the number of objections that are in this?
I have not.
Yeah, there's an overabundance of objections, and I'd like to get this rectified sooner than later.
Okay.
I think that speaks to publicizing it properly as well, though, because if there are people who object, then there would likely be more people who object.
Yeah, and a lot of these objections have been in the office for 3 months, and I'm getting constant calls. This is actually in the same development that I live in. So I'll make a motion that we set the public hearing for short-term rental application 8 Keith Lane, section block and lot 3-3-4 for June 17th at 7 PM or immediately thereafter.
Can we do it upon conditions that it was properly, or do we not need to?
Well,
because
the problem
it's
is, once we set it, we would want to open it, but what I'm saying is if, for example, it's only in the paper for 4 days, then we would just recommend continuing the public hearing
Okay.
to the July meeting.
And that was going to be my comment, that we could start in June, and that will most likely keep it open for at least one other meeting.
I
So-
feel generally you've been doing that anyway with the STRs.
Yeah. Okay. Who will second?
Call the question.
Hingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Item 10.1, equipment surplus for the Round Lake boats. So I was not here, so I know there was a question about possibly going to auction. I will say this, in the resolution approving this, the town of Woodbury reached out to me about 3 months ago asking about the boats. They have offered to take them, the swan boats and the duck boats, off of our hand. Emery Morris went out and got appraisals, a salvage value from Industrial Appraising Company. And we have, not a lot, but we've actually offered them to purchase it at a rate higher than the salvage value. So I would like to read the resolution. So the resolution authorizing sale of surplus equipment to the town of Woodbury. Whereas the town of Woodbury has expressed an interest in purchasing certain equipment from the town of Monroe consisting of a lot of 4 swan boats and 2 duck boats, which is known as the equipment. Whereas the town board does not have any useful purpose for the equipment and desires to transfer same to the town of Woodbury, where such equipment will be put to a beneficial use for the Woodbury community. Whereas the town requested cost appraisals from Industrial Appraising Company, which determined a salvage value of $450 per swan boat and $296 per duck boat. And whereas Woodbury has offered to purchase such equipment at the rate of $450 per swan boat and $300 per duck boat. Now therefore be it resolved, the whereas clauses are incorporated herein as set forth in full. The town supervisor is hereby authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate the sale and surplus equipment to the town of Woodbury at a rate of $450 per swan boat and $300 per duck boat, with the entire lot to be sold to Woodbury. Section 3, the town supervisor and any other officer or employee as directed by the town supervisor is hereby authorized to take any and all actions to carry out the provisions of the resolution. Section 4, the resolution shall be effective immediately.
Second for discussion.
Well, I don't
Oh,
think we have a motion,
do we not?
because you can't.
I can't, yeah,
So
we need a motion.
So who will make a motion that
then
we
a second.
authorize the town supervisor to sign the sale of surplus equipment to the town of Woodbury?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. I just spoke with a couple people, and they were a little disappointed that we would be getting rid of these. So I wanted to let people know what the issue was. Anne Marie had described that there are currents in Round Lake that actually take these paddle boats further than, casual visitors intend. They sweep them into sort of precarious positions. We can't really staff the lake with the type of lifeguards we would need there to supervise. And the heads of the swans and the ducks actually get caught in the wind, making the situation entirely more tragic for those who are not prepared, and they cannot pedal backwards. So hopefully our lovely boats have a better luck in Woodbury.
They will. They will.
Call the question.
Hingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved. Item 10.2.
God bless.
God bless you.
Bless you. Gee, good one.
That woke everyone up.
Item 10.2, short-term rental application 649 Lakes Road, SBL 29-1-34.1. Okay, so, council, I'm going to ask for some advice here. I think a lot of what has been discussed by residents, and it has been refuted by the property owner and their attorney, that there is, the residents in the area have stated that there's not enough screening and there's a lack of privacy. I tend to agree with that view, and I would just like clarification on whether the application can be denied based on that.
Yeah, that's one of the factors under Chapter 40. There's 5 factors. Unless they're doing construction or expansion, there's really only 4 factors, and one of them is that the neighbors are afforded a reasonable degree of privacy. There's no, specific standards in terms of that, so that's obviously a decision to be made by the town board based upon the evidence that's been submitted to you. I believe there were either photographs or videos regarding this property.
Both.
So under the code, you would need to find all 4 or 5 of those factors in order to approve an STR application. So if you don't find one of them, or you find that it hasn't been satisfied, then essentially we would deny it. And if that's the board's guidance or determination, we would then draft a resolution reflecting the factors and your findings on them.
So you would draft out a resolution and it would be approved next meeting?
Well, yeah, disapproved,
But
on the agenda.
we would make the motion to disapprove it this
Yes.
evening, and then you would draft a resolution?
Right, and now, are we generally satisfied with the other conditions, the adequate parking? Is there any issue with that?
I just had a follow-up question before you venture off to other topics for privacy. The way that I read, or a section that I read, said that the board can mandate privacy. And just to play devil's advocate, as I also do not believe the spacing of the homes is, the best, the applicant did offer to make changes. So are there 2 sections that saying the board can mandate privacy, and then a separate section that says we can deny based on?
No, I believe that what you're referring to about whether or not the board can require privacy would be the option of the board to issue a permit with conditions. In other words, it's not specific to privacy, but the language of the code allows the board to grant a permit with conditions that have to be met. So it's not a mandate, but it's an option. If you decided we're going to approve this, subject to X condition, construction of whatever privacy measures the board or its professionals determine are appropriate, you could approve with that condition.
So both are options, to deny on privacy and also to say amend and conditional acceptance for
You have to
privacy.
issue with the condition. In
Okay.
other words, that you'd be saying essentially they don't meet that requirement, so it's a condition that they meet it. So essentially you're requiring them to come into compliance for approval.
But considering that the house is so close to the property line, for
And-
me,
In this case.
And the fact that it was represented that there was enough privacy there already, which I find...
Subjective, but just to get clarity for every other application, what our abilities are. You were saying something about if we were going to continue on, and I interrupted you.
Oh, so I was just saying if we're looking towards a resolution that might include a disapproval the next meeting, we need to address the other conditions, and I just need the board's guidance. In other words, was there any issue with parking, which is the first condition, with respect to this particular application?
well, I think that there were several issues with the
They have
property.
to have 4 off-street parking spaces under that requirement.
They do have 4 off-street, but access to them would have to go through
Yeah, it's a shared
a
access route.
shared, which is solely owned by the property that faces School Road. So the fact that there are so many issues with the property, and the fact that it is seemingly impossible to provide any type of expected privacy because the house is so close to the property line, I'm in a position to not approve.
What were the other?
Yeah, I agree that privacy is sufficient alone, but I need in the decision, you have to address those
Yeah.
4 factors. There's no new construction, so we're down to the other 4. So we either need to say yes or no on do they meet the 4 off-street parking, and then we have I'm not sure if they
Technically,
have any
yes.
non-conformance or variances, but that's the other.
Shared driveway, does that count as?
I'm sorry?
It's a shared, sorry, so do we have to do this now, or we're just going to do this off-site? Are you asking these questions to be answered now?
I'm just looking for the general guidance to draft a resolution
Okay.
to then give to you.
So you asked if they
4 parking
technically meet the
spaces.
4 parking spaces, yes. However, there's an oddity where it is a shared driveway and there does not appear to be a use agreement. It's solely owned by the other.
Are we aware of any variances, like, or non-conformance on this lot?
I'm not aware of any, no.
Okay. And the last thing is the surrounding area. I don't know if there's a claim of excessive number of approved short-term rentals.
Not at this time.
All right, so I can give a draft to the
There's one
board.
approved on School Road, that's it.
So I can provide a draft to the board, a resolution, and then you can individually, comment on that or submit, your thoughts, and then we can put that out on the agenda prior to the next meeting. You're looking on the 17th for this, right?
So do we need a motion for that?
No, I mean, we've discussed it, obviously. I'll do that and
Okay.
draft it and get it to you. So I guess the only thing is whether you want to, I don't know if you need a motion. This is not a public hearing at this point. You would just put it on the next agenda.
Okay. Hey. Next item, comment?
On Deschner? Just a reminder, you'll have 3 minutes for public comment.
Give him hell.
You got to speak into the mic there, Johnny.
Oh, Johnny DeBree. He's retired, so.
Congratulations.
You retired from your debris collection?
Yes.
No.
Falling too much. I can't.
Oh, no.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm,
Yes.
Oh.
And that's it, so. Hey, what round is it?
what round?
We got him on the ropes.
Is it the 6th round or
I
the 7th?
think so. I think I need a 7th inning stretch.
I lost track. Anyway, I like everybody on the board. And, but the one thing I want to talk about is, that we might get complacent, with all the arguing that goes on. But the thing is, the thing that I want to emphasize is voting. And the way I see Monroe is there's 2 types of people in Monroe: high density and low density. High density housing and low density housing. And the high density housing is over on Ninninger Road by the police barracks. And
That's not in Monroe, that's in Palm Tree.
Palm Tree, right?
We had some time.
Yeah, right. But you ruined my train of thought.
Sorry.
And of course the high density people, they're very good at voting, and when they vote as a block, and everybody votes. Now the low density people, they got a problem because they don't vote like they should, and that's what we have to correct. And the other thing is they have a disadvantage, the low density. Their vote is split. All the votes are split. One goes to a Democrat, one goes to a Republican. So the high density people have an advantage. And as this high density group grows, we better be careful. Because if the low density people don't vote, Monroe might end up to be a high density development. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deschner.
And thank you for your service again.
Yeah, okay.
No more falling. No more falling.
Thank you, Johnny. Next speaker?
Dan Burke.
Yeah, hi, Dan Burke, elder statesman, Rye Hill Road, Village of Monroe, Town of Monroe. It was good to see our county executive here on May the 6th. Part of the message he delivered might have been too subtle. He was talking about how wonderful it was when he was the town supervisor in Chester, and he had 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans on his board. And he called that was the most productive time of their lives. He really enjoyed it. He emphasized the point by speaking about bipartisanship on the county level. The county budgets are getting unanimous votes. Most county initiatives are getting unanimous votes from Republicans and Democrats. This was a good argument for bipartisan government. Mr. Chairman, I hope you were listening. This town board does not have to be so adversarial. Find some ways to reach out, to be open, to build something here so that we can get good government in the town of Monroe. And a quick example on this reimbursement for the radio station, the chairman could have said, this is money coming directly to me, so I'll recuse myself. It would have been 2-2 votes. You would have been out a few bucks, but it would have been an example to bring everybody together. Anyway, the town board operates under Robert's Rules of Order, 12th edition, with some additional rules that are designed just for this Monroe Town Board. I finally realized those additions are our board's unique public comments rules. These rules were drafted by 3 councilmen who did not like how the chairman was conducting the meetings. 2 of those councilmen are gone now, and the 3rd one has moved up to chairman. There are things that happen at these meetings now that might need adjusting. I am proposing an additional clause to be added to the public comments rule. After a citizen has made 3 minutes of public comments and sits down, if the response from any member of the board or the chairman is ad hominem, that citizen would be given an additional 3 minutes to step back up to the mic and present a rebuttal. Ad hominem would be determined by 1 vote on the town board. Any member of the town board would just have to say ad hominem and activate the rebuttal. And last time I was here, and when the county exec was here, I proposed that the town try to get electric buses for Dollar Bus. And I'd like to get some feedback. What's really happening? Has that request been made? Is letters of support been submitted? What's the response? It would be like, I'd like to hear that monthly, because you say $49,000 and clean air. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burke.
That's all for public comment.
Okay. Any comment from the board?
We going down the line?
I think bipartisanship is something that grows over time. There are always growing pains, so I think we just have to work it out a little bit longer. That's my comment.
In response to reorganizing the public comment rules, I agree that I think new board, new dynamic, we should open up some of these rules of procedure, policies, all of that, and hash that out as a board. I attend other municipalities' meetings, and they make it so that each section, say new business, if you have a comment on, ours is like community announcements. If there's someone in the audience who has a specific comment on that category, they can go and comment after that section is done, and then they can leave and get on with their day because they're not paid to be here. And I think that that is a brilliant system, so that people, can watch the meeting at their leisure later on. Certain adjustments and amendments, I don't believe in the 3-minute rule. I believe it's too short. I have trouble getting it all out with my young lungs, and I watch other people struggle to make very informed, researched points, which helps us. And we're always asking people to come down and speak with us face to face because it lends that tone, understanding, ability to ask them to clarify, and yet we're restricting them to 3 minutes, and the way we've been doing it doesn't always wind up being universal and fair. So I think we should definitely take a look at a policy that doesn't discriminate. We've had men up here for longer, I've noticed that. Then sometimes we cut off women, and I just wouldn't want that to appear a certain way. So I think we definitely, I agree, need to take a look as a bipartisan board at this new dynamic and creating new policies for the public and for ourselves.
Okay. I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss, well, prior to that, I'm sorry. Before we do that, we have, there's a list of assistant building inspectors, which Ben would like to hire another one because of the amount of violations, permits, everything else that they're dealing with. So we need to discuss the salary for a full-time hire. I would think it would be somewhere in the $50,000 to $54,000 range based on the salaries that are currently in that office. Mark, who's the second building inspector, full-time, is making 64 and change. And Bill, who to come off of probation, he can make at most, I think at 17 and a half hours, 26,626. So essentially, if you doubled Phil's salary, it comes to 53. Thus the reason for the range on my part of $50,000 to $54,000. I just want to hear some input from everyone.
I'm sorry, could you?
I think that's a fair range. It still may be a little low for this area, but I think it's a good starting point.
Could you repeat the question? You're just asking us our thoughts on the salary range?
I'm asking your thoughts on the salary range of $50,000 to $54,000 for assistant building inspector.
Do we have any comparative data at this time for other municipalities?
The comparative data is our department.
Yeah.
So everyone else is so I'm just saying, we are not comparing it to other municipalities, we're just comparing it to the other roles, and they're identical.
What's that?
I'm saying the role that you've asked us to judge the fairness of the salary on, 50 to 54, that's what our current employees are making, and the role would be identical?
If you extrapolate it out, so we have a part-time building inspector
Yeah.
who's earning what would be equivalent to $26,000.
Okay.
So then that would, if you were to double that, it would be
Sure, yeah.
52,000, which would fall right in between 50 to 54. And the building inspector himself is earning
Above
60.
80. Well, no,
Oh,
Mark.
Ben.
Yeah,
Ben is.
Ben
And
is
then
above 80.
Mark
is, I'm
64.
sorry, Ben might have hit 90 this year, but Mark is at 64 and change.
Okay, and he
And
is.
he has been here for 5 years, I believe.
And he's building inspector or
He's
assistant?
the assistant building inspector.
And
yes.
he's assistant building inspector one?
One,
One, okay.
So this would
And
be
we're
a role
looking for
beneath
three,
him.
right?
yeah.
Okay,
Assistant building
yeah.
inspector,
Phil
three.
is 2.
Okay.
that sounds right, just percentage-wise.
So I'll make a motion to approve the range for the full-time hire of Assistant Building Inspector 3 to be $50,000 to $54,000 based on experience.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. So I'd like to go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations and performance compensation for 2 employees.
Second?
Call the question.
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, aye.
So moved. Let's get rolling before he loses it. I'll make a motion to return to the January 3rd Town Board meeting.
Pool will second. June 3rd.
June 3rd, sorry.
Pool will
Going back in
second.
time.
Yeah. Call the question.
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that highway mechanic George Kiden be paid a stipend of flat rate of $2.50 an hour in addition to his base salary, and that $2.50 an hour will not be subject to any salary percentage increases in the contract. George is the mechanic with the New York State inspection license and certificate, and I'll leave it at that.
Bingham will second.
Okay?
Go ahead. No, you got it, Mary.
Mary seconded. Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, I.
Okay, so moved there. Now, Ed Morales took the supervisor of transportation test. He finished first on the test, and I would like to, wait, do we have to, no, with George, do we have to make, set a date on that as to when it's effective?
You already approved for civil service? Or,
Oh, no, I'm
George
talking
is,
about
yes.
George.
His
Okay.
$2.50, his $2.50.
oh, okay, the flat rate? Well, you should make it effective whenever,
All right, effective this day?
well, at least tomorrow. if
Okay,
you wanna
so we'll
do-
make it, can you add that George will be effective tomorrow? George's increase or stipend? Okay, and then, once approved by the county, Ed Morales will be moved from head bus driver to supervisor of transportation at a rate of $70,000 per year.
Pool will second.
Call the question?
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, I.
So moved. Anybody have anything else?
I just want to ask.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion to return to executive session to discuss federal litigation.
All your fault, bro.
Do I have a second?
Pool will second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Reluctantly, Richardson, I.
Ready, George?
Georgie, you ready? All right. My apologies. We'll come back out of executive session and return to the town board meeting of June 3rd, 2024.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, I.
Okay, so moved. So Val, you got the Morales motion? Or were we in the middle of that? Talking to the mic, please. Please.
Sorry. Ed Morales, once approved by the county, $70,000 per year.
Okay, so we're good. Okay, so if there's nothing else,
You're fired.
motion to adjourn?
Pool will second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, I.